Welcome to Biff's Mystery Theater. I have many tales to tell you. Ghost stories, murder stories, and tales that will make your bones chill. Join me, won't you? For Theater of the Mind, where you always have the best seat in the house. Now close your eyes and turn off the lights.
Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. If your candle is burning, a gust of wind will blow it out. If your house is burning, a gust of wind will make the flame hotter and brighter. The wind and the flame. Can it be said they seem to have a kind of love-hate relationship? Or should it be said that we simply cannot predict the actions of the elemental forces of nature? In which case, what can we say about ourselves? Isn't each living creature a collection of those very same mysterious and baffling forces?
Telephone for you, sir.
I don't want to talk to anyone now.
Gentleman says it's urgent.
Tell him to call back later.
I'll do that, sir.
Who is it, by the way?
Mr. Wesley Carradine.
Who?
Mr. Wesley Carradine.
Well, that's impossible. Wesley's been dead 6 months.
But here he is on the phone, sir. Do you want to talk to him?
Our mystery drama, The Wind and the Flame, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Sam Dan and stars Celeste Holm. It is sponsored in part by Sign-Off, the Sinus Medicines, and Buick Motor Division. I'll be back shortly with Act One. Conscience, said Sigmund Freud, is the perception of the rejection of a particular wish operating within us. And I take his word for it, on faith. However, I much prefer the definition by Robert Louis Stevenson, who revealed the heart of the matter when he said, "Conscience is the one thing I cannot bear." Well, as you can see, this is going to be a story about conscience. And the best place to begin a story is at the beginning. That's a rule. And rules were meant to be broken. We shall begin ours neither at the beginning nor the end, but somewhere in between.
Yes?
Is this the residence of Mr. Arthur Randolph Hale?
It is.
Oh, you're Mr. Hale. I recognized you.
What is it you want?
From your pictures. They've been in the paper.
What can I do for you?
Well, I have a letter for you.
Oh, please come in. Won't you have a seat, Mrs.
It's Miss. Unfortunately, I have never known wedded bliss. Although, to tell the truth, when one looks around, one is hard put to believe that marriage is really blissful. What do you think, Mr. Hale?
Well, I think that I should like to see that letter.
Of course. Here it is. From Mrs. Terwilliger.
Penelope Terwilliger?
Yes. Mr. Gerald Terwilliger's wife. I should say his widow.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Oh, I see you're having trouble reading it. As you know, her
That
handwriting...
woman does it deliberately. It was always her affectation to have an illegible script.
Well, you can try to squint and probe your way through it, but I can save you the trouble. I know what's written there.
You do?
Yes, Mr. Hale. It's a reference.
A reference?
A reference and a recommendation.
For what?
For employment.
But for whom?
For me.
What sort of employment? Don't tell me that you're a mining engineer.
No, sir.
A geologist, a draftsman, a surveyor, a metallurgist?
I'm none of those.
Well, what are you?
A housekeeper. And I might add, a very good one.
I don't want a housekeeper.
That may be, but you need one.
Huh? Who says so?
Mrs. Terwilliger, in her letter. I know it by heart. I'll tell you what it says.
This is a sealed envelope addressed to me. How would you know what's in it?
I made it my business to find out. After all, it's about me.
Well, of all the...
She writes, Dear Arthur, now that Gerald is gone, I have decided to close the house and travel abroad for a year. This leaves my very valuable and trusted housekeeper, Miss Sabina Caldwell, at liberty. Arthur, I know how you always felt about me. Now that I'm alone, I keep thinking more and more about your proposal. However, you have lived by yourself too long. You have developed slothful habits in that large, neglected house of yours, and so I send you Miss Caldwell in the hope that she can civilize you. She will see that you eat regular meals, keep your place in order, and altogether tame you and make you fit for human society. I think I love you, Penelope.
She wrote that?
I'm prepared to start immediately, Mr. Hale. My trunk is just outside the door.
Now, wait a minute. I haven't said that you can.
As soon as the trunk can be brought into my room, I should like to inspect the kitchen.
But you just can't walk in here
If only you knew how she would sit and talk to me. For hours and hours on end. And she would talk about you.
Me?
With a sigh in her voice and a twinkle in her eye. Yes, she would say, I chose Gerald Terwilliger. I was young. I was foolish. If only I had to do it over again. There was a young engineer, Arthur Randolph Hale. What a fine, impressive name. And what a fine, impressive man he's become. A man of action, adventure. I'll pick that up.
Hold on.
No gentleman ever answers his own telephone. Oh, excuse me, sir. Are you in or out?
Am I in?
Do you wish or do you not wish to speak with anyone at this time?
You mean that Penelope would actually talk about me?
Oh, yes, at great length and considerable depth.
Will you get rid of that telephone, please?
That, sir, was my original suggestion.
I don't care who it is. Tell him that I'm out to call back later.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hale's residence. Who is calling, please? Oh, I'm sorry, sir, but Mr. Hale is out at the moment. Do you want him to return your call? Oh, I see. You cannot be reached. Yes, sir. I'll say that you'll call him back. Thank you, sir. Goodbye. There was a Mr. Carradine.
Will you now tell me what Penelope Terwilliger said about me?
Oh, it's not what she said so much as the way she said it.
Now, hold on.
It's a matter of nuance.
Wait. Who was on the phone just now?
Mr. Carradine?
Carradine?
Yes, sir. That was the gentleman's name.
But it's impossible.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
You're sure that he said Carradine?
Certainly, sir.
Did he happen to mention his first name?
Mr. Hale, are you feeling all right?
Answer me.
Yes, he did. Wesley.
Wesley?
He said, hello, this is Wesley Carradine. Is A.R. there?
He asked for A.R.?
That is you, isn't it? Arthur Randolph Hale?
The man's voice, was it young, old, middle-aged?
Well, you know how difficult it is to tell those things over the telephone.
Well, try. How old a man would you say that he was?
Well, not very old.
What do you mean by not very old?
Sir, I don't think you should excite yourself.
Well, how old a man was it?
Well, I would say he was about 30.
Oh, 30, I see. You're sure 30?
Well, as far as one can ever be sure of these things. Now, I think you had better sit down and try to calm yourself.
Yes, but how would you describe his voice?
I would say it was in the middle range, but on the lowish, throaty side.
Did he have an accent?
An accent? No, it sounded American enough.
Was there anything about it?
Wait, it did have an accent.
What kind?
Well, I'm not sure it would really be called an accent. It was more of a lilt.
It's a lilt.
Sort of a southern rhythm, very musical.
It can't be true. It simply cannot be true.
What can't be true?
It can't be Wesley Carradine.
Why not?
Because Wesley Carradine is dead.
Well, if that's true...
Of course it's true. He's dead. It was in the papers. It was in all the papers.
Well, sometimes the press... And I don't say they do this deliberately, but there are times when they do exaggerate.
But he's dead. There couldn't be any doubt about it. He was murdered.
Well, then it must be another Wesley Carradine.
Are you saying that there were two of them? Two men named Wesley Carradine?
It's possible?
2 Wesley Carradines, both 30 years of age, both with soft southern accents, both who would know me and call me A.R.
You're positive Wesley Carradine is dead?
Well, I was the one who identified the body.
Oh, what a terrible moment that must have been for you. But why were you the one to do that?
Well, because he worked for me.
I see. Didn't he have a family?
Yes, he had folks living on the East Coast somewhere. Well, he wasn't close with them.
Mr. Hale, I begin to be troubled by the tone in your voice. I begin to hear the sound of hysteria. You must get hold of yourself.
It was Wesley Carradine. It was Wesley.
It couldn't be. If Wesley is dead.
But,
There are no buts. We live in a world of uncertainty and doubt. What we believe in may turn out to be matchstick temples built on quicksand. But of this we can be sure. The dead do not telephone the living.
No. Well, how can I be sure he is dead when he...
Will you excuse me for just a little while, sir?
Where are you going? Don't leave me alone here. But don't answer it.
Now, sir, you are reacting in a most immature manner. Mr. Hale's residence. I beg your pardon. I'm sorry, sir. You have a wrong number.
Who was that?
You heard me. A wrong number.
You are lying.
I'm not used to being called a liar.
He just called back.
Now, Mr. Hale.
He was on the phone again. Wesley Carradine was on the phone again.
Please, sit down, Mr. Hale. Please. And listen. A man has just called you twice within the past few minutes.
Aha, you admit it.
A man who says his name is Wesley Carradine. Did you hear that? A man who says his name is Wesley Carradine.
Why should anyone lie about...
Someone with a very unhealthy sense of humor and a wretched taste in practical jokes. Now, who would want to play a trick like that on you?
I don't know.
It is a trick, a bad joke, and you must put it from your mind. But what? Mr. Wesley Carradine is dead, isn't he?
Yes, but
Then there's nothing more to be said. Now, I understand the telephone company has a number, a special number to call if you require help in preventing harassing phone calls. Why don't you tend to that while I look in the kitchen and see about dinner?
What's that?
Well, I would assume it was the front door.
Don't answer it.
Why not? Who do you expect it to be? Excuse me. Yes?
Who's there?
Well, that's odd.
Who is it?
There's no one here.
What are you talking about?
See for yourself. Do you know what must have happened? Some child must have just played a prank. Rang the bell and ran away.
No. Look, on the step.
Oh, it's a small box.
Don't pick it up, don't.
Why not?
Well, how do you know what it is?
Well, let's open it and find out.
Open it?
Your name is on it. Look, Mr. A.R. Hale, 1737 East 54th Street.
Oh, there's something wrong, very wrong, Miss Caldwell.
You'll catch your death standing out here in this cold. Let's take this inside. Shall you open it? All right. I'll do the honors. I wonder what it could be. Oh, my goodness, it's a revolver. And there's a card enclosed. It's addressed to you. Why don't you read it?
What
does it say? Let me see. Use it well. Well, now, that's an odd thing to say about a revolver. Use it well. Must be something written on the other side, too. What does that say?
One is all you need. Wesley. Oh, Wesley.
You have to say one thing for Brother Wesley. He gets around. What makes Wesley all the more remarkable is the fact that his home base is the grave. There will be a widening of Wesley's theater of operation when I return shortly with Act Two. You can't be in two places at the same time, especially if one of them happens to be the grave. However, someone named Wesley Carradine seems to be extremely active, even though he is no longer alive. Now, wait a minute, some of you may be saying. Has it been definitely established that Wesley is dead? We'll take care of that in short order.
That a real revolver? Wait, don't touch it. Fingerprints. Mr. Hale, some vicious person is out to destroy you.
Use it well. One is all you need, Wesley.
Where are you going, Mr. Hale?
I have to see something for myself.
Mr. Hale! What are you looking for?
Yes, here they are. Some letters, some notes in Wesley's handwriting. You see? You see, isn't it obvious?
Isn't what obvious?
The writing is the same.
Nonsense.
And you can see Wesley Carradine wrote this card.
This is a job for an expert. You and I are going to the police station.
Why?
Because something of a criminal nature is taking place.
But that is Wesley's handwriting.
It is not Wesley's handwriting. Wesley is dead. Now, sir, you happen to be very important to the future happiness of a woman to whom I owe a great deal, Mrs. Penelope Terwilliger. She has sent me here to take care of you until she can come back to America. I seem to have walked into the midst of some, very troublesome situation. So I'm here to stand by you in every way I can. And the first thing we have to do is to go to the police.
Will you come in, please?
Thank you, Lieutenant Bauer. Mr. Hale?
All right.
Please be seated. Now, there were no fingerprints on the gun.
Of course not. How can a corpse leave fingerprints?
There was a live bullet in one of the chambers, and the other 5 were empty.
Use it well. One is all you need.
Mm-hmm. And on the
Suggesting that we have an affair.
Wesley Carradine.
He sent me his revolver. Don't you see? He sent me his revolver.
Well, now, why would he do that? Assuming, of course, that what you're saying is true.
I don't know.
Now, look, Mr. Hale, Wesley Carradine was murdered exactly 6 months ago. Now, you know that.
Yes, but
I was involved in that case myself. The facts cannot be in dispute. Your chauffeur stopped by Mr. Carradine's apartment at 8 a.m. that morning to pick him up. There was no answer to the bell. The door was open. The chauffeur went in, found the place ransacked, and Mr. Carradine dead of a bullet wound. Now, that's where we were, and that's where we are.
Is everyone absolutely positive that the dead man was Wesley Carradine?
Miss Caldwell, is that your name?
Yes.
Well, your police department appreciates, even solicits, assistance from the citizens of this metropolis, but please don't be an amateur detective. We have enough problems as it is.
Well, you are satisfied that the dead man was Wesley Carradine, Lieutenant?
Yes, I am.
Why? Did you know Mr. Carradine personally?
Well, what does this have to do with...
Did you know him personally?
Oh, no.
Then how could you be positive the dead man was Wesley Carradine?
No, look, he was identified by the chauffeur and by Mr. Hale.
What other identification did you look for?
Other identification?
Yes, a murder is committed. A corpse is found. 2 men say this is the body of a Mr. Wesley Carradine. On the basis of that testimony, you are satisfied that he is actually Wesley Carradine.
Mr. Carradine was, as we were given to understand, more or less a stranger in town.
As you were given to understand by whom?
By Mr. Hale.
Miss Caldwell, what are you trying to do to me? What are you trying to insinuate? I thought that you were on my side.
I am, to the finish. I'm only trying to establish that we blithely accept a fact, which may be found to be an illusion.
But why would I lie? What motive would I...
Mr. Hale, please, I have a mission to preserve your sanity.
A mission, Miss Caldwell?
It's a private matter that does not concern the police. I'm trying, Mr. Hale, desperately to somehow establish the fact that Mr. Carradine is still alive. What made the chauffeur so sure the body was Mr. Carradine?
Miss Caldwell, what you're trying to do is...
Could we talk to the chauffeur again?
There was no doubt about that body.
Well, why can't we talk to the chauffeur?
Because he's dead. He was killed in an accident last week.
Mr. Hale, there have just been a number of upsetting events, and you are quite disturbed by them. I can only hope to prove somehow that Mr. Carradine is still alive, that you were mistaken in your identification. Because if he is actually dead...
He is dead. I knew him very well.
Why was no attempt made to notify next of kin?
Because we didn't know any.
Where did Mr. Carradine come from?
I don't know.
Then actually it would seem you knew very little about Mr. Carradine.
That is right. I gathered that he had left home in disgrace.
Disgrace?
He hinted at some sort of misunderstanding. Anyhow, he never wanted to speak about it. He said that he was starting a new life.
Why would anyone want to kill him?
Miss Caldwell, we have been through all this as part of our routine homicide investigation.
That may be the trouble. You treat it as routine. A human being has been murdered. Not only are you ignorant as to who may have done it, it appears now you can't even be sure of the identity of the corpse.
We are sure. Excuse me. A man was murdered. We know that for a fact, and we found a corpse. The body was identified as that of Wesley Carradine. Okay. Wesley Carradine might not have been his right name, but he was the man who had worked for Mr. Hale here. Now, that man is dead. He was killed by a person or persons presently unknown, who then stole everything of value from his person and his apartment. Mr. Carradine is dead.
But then how do you account for the telephone call, for this revolver with his name on it?
Oh, come now, Mr. Hale. What was to prevent someone from buying a revolver and having Mr. Wesley Carradine's name engraved on it?
According to the number on this revolver, it was registered in the name of Wesley Carradine.
Lieutenant, anybody could buy a revolver and register it under Wesley Carradine's name.
No. In the first place, the registration dates back 3 years. And in the second place, only the actual applicant can register the weapon because he has to be fingerprinted. We have verified Mr. Carradine's fingerprints. Oh, and there is another thing.
Yes?
Our handwriting expert says she is certain beyond the shadow of a doubt that the card was written by Wesley Carradine.
Lieutenant Bauer, I am certain there must be an explanation.
Well, there may be harassment here, and not. We'll look into it.
Well, how do you propose to look into it?
That is a good question. I wish I had an answer.
Why would Wesley Carradine threaten from the grave, assuming that this is what's taking place?
I don't know.
Come, Mr. Hale, there must be a reason.
Well, he didn't like me.
Well now, why?
Quite frankly, he thought that I drove him too hard. I paid him too little, and I expected too much.
And did you?
Well, I suppose so. But I'm just as strict on myself. You know, I tell you what I believe. And you can make anything out of this that you please. He probably resents the fact that he is dead, and I'm still alive.
Mr. Hale, if he's dead, he can't resent anything.
Look, I don't know how the police department fits into all this. Now, I can only assume that we have malicious mischief. And I've got to take down some particulars. Now, how many servants in your employ, besides Miss Colwell here?
I'm the only one.
And how long have you worked for Mr. Hale?
How long?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'd say about an hour.
An hour? How did you get the job?
I was sent to Mr. Hale by a friend of his, Mrs. Penelope Terwilliger.
Mrs. Penelope Terwilliger.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll see what we can do.
Mr. Hale.
What is it?
You must come down for breakfast.
No, I'm not hungry.
You haven't eaten in 2 days.
The phone rang this morning at 6:30, didn't it?
Yes, it did, matter of fact.
Who was it? He called again, didn't he? Huh? And what did he say?
Does it matter? Why do you allow yourself...
I knew who it was the minute I heard the phone ring.
You did?
Yes.
Then why didn't you answer it?
Because I can't.
That way you'd know for sure if it's his voice.
What did he say?
Mr. Hale, I have a problem I can't help, and it gets me into all kinds of trouble. Put yourself in my position. I hear a phone. I answer it. I report it's a man. I describe the voice. You become terrified. Why? Because you insist it's a man who's 6 months dead. Now here is where my problem comes in. I make deductions from facts, and I speak my mind. I see you react in such a violent manner. You're so distraught. I cannot help but suspect you have a feeling of guilt.
What? Guilt? Why should I have a feeling of guilt?
Sir, were you not responsible for that man's death?
He was killed by the robbers.
We don't know that for a fact.
What are you trying to imply?
I don't even think I'm implying it. I state it as a fact. You killed Mr. Wesley Carradine.
How do you dare to...
We could settle this with a yes or no.
Well, the answer is a definite no. No, I hope that you're satisfied.
Sir, all I'm saying to you is that your reaction tends to arouse suspicion.
Well, what do you expect? I was very close with Wesley toward the end, and I was caught so completely off guard. Well, has it ever happened to you? You're hit from the blind side without warning?
If your conscience is clear, then you must not behave as if it were guilty.
Well, no one's conscience is ever entirely clear.
But you cannot behave as if you were the man who murdered him. Well, First thing you need is a good breakfast. Wesley Carradine is dead. You are probably upset because you might have been kinder to him. Isn't that so?
Yes.
Be kinder to someone in the future, and you will have learned from his death. And now, for breakfast.
Oh, yes, I'm starved. Oh, Miss Caldwell, what would I ever do without you? Oh, God, that's the telephone.
Naturally.
You answer it.
Lay the matter to rest, Mr. Hale. You answer it.
Miss Caldwell, I give you back your very own words. No gentleman ever answers his own telephone.
Very well, sir. Mr. Hale's residence? Oh, it's you again. Never mind that. Before you even get started, you're playing a nasty little illegal game. We have the police and the phone company alerted. Sooner or later, you're going to be caught. Then, my friend, it's the jail or the asylum for the likes of you. Goodbye. I guess I told him.
It was that voice?
Yes, that ignorant and vicious person. Now, you know the best way to handle these people.
What did he say?
Don't even talk to them. As soon as you know who it is, hang up.
But what did he say?
What does it matter? Sooner or later, they get tired of the game. Their minds are too fragile to have any staying power.
He must have said something. He identified himself as Wesley Carradine?
Oh, yes. But I know his voice by now.
But did he say anything else?
I wasn't listening. Now, some hot coffee, cereal, eggs, bacon, toast. Get back into the real world, Mr. Hale, and stay there.
Oh, you're a remarkable woman.
Eat your breakfast.
I wonder... I just wonder who that voice is.
Good. We make progress. Till now, you had deluded yourself into thinking it was actually the voice of Wesley Carradine, whoever he was. Now you acknowledge a rational explanation.
Well, it's obviously a prank.
I used to work for a doctor. He said, Miss Caldwell, the body, the mind, whichever, is attacked by a germ or a neurosis. It retreats at first. And then it summons all of its strength to repel the invader. Now that's what has just happened to you. The practical instincts of a lifetime have just come to your assistance and rescued you from being overcome by superstition.
Yes, of course. I'm interested in knowing what he did say, however.
Not very much. He said his name, his alleged name, asked for you, and said he wanted to discuss a project.
What sort of project?
Said you know about it. He gave it a name.
A name?
Yes, he said it was the Langley-Jewett proposal.
The what?
Well, I think that's what he said. Jewett-Langley, or was it Langley-Jewett? I don't... Mr. Hale.
Oh.
Mr. Hale, what's wrong? Mr. Hale!
What's wrong? Mr. Hale has just collapsed on the floor. That's for starters. It seems that he has been knocked unconscious by the mention of a name. Now, what's in a name, the poet asks. The answer, quite obviously, is it all depends on whose name. We'll name some more names when I return shortly with Act 3. The pen is mightier than the sword, and the word, it seems, is weightier than the fist. If you want to strike a knockout blow, perhaps a good look can be more destructive than a right hook. The greatest wounds may be those that leave absolutely no outside scarring. On with our story.
Mr. Hale. Mr. Hale.
What?
Don't say anything. Just drink this.
Mike, you said that Wesley called and...
No, sir. Wesley did not call.
But you just said...
I said a voice that claimed to be Wesley. Now drink this.
He wanted to talk about Langley Jewett.
You're going to be all right.
Langley Jewett. He did say Langley Jewett.
Mr. Hale, you must relax.
Well, how can I relax?
Because you had a bad experience.
It was the voice of Wesley Carradine.
We know that's impossible.
But don't you see? Only Wesley Carradine and I knew about Langley Jewett.
Are you positive?
Of course.
What is Langley Jewett?
What? Oh, it's a mine. It's an old abandoned silver mine.
Yes?
You see, it's supposed to be all played out, and we could pick it up for peanuts.
What does that mean?
Wesley discovered that there's a whole untapped lode.
Oh.
Millions and millions of dollars worth of silver.
And this was your secret.
Yes, Wesley's and mine.
How do you know someone else didn't find out?
Nobody could have found out.
How can you be sure?
Because I just closed the deal for the mine myself.
And what does that prove?
You don't understand. If anyone else had been wise, I could never have... Well, I could never have stolen that mine.
Stolen?
That's a figure of speech.
Well, then why did you make it sound like a shady transaction?
Is it shady to pick up a property as cheaply as you can?
What you're saying is that you were able to buy Langley Jewett because only you and Wesley Carradine knew its true value.
Yes.
Obviously, this person who just called knows something about it also.
That is why that person has to be Wesley Carradine.
If Wesley Carradine called you, then he can't be dead.
But he is. I know that he is.
How can you be so certain? After all, for reasons of his own, Wesley may have wanted to disappear. He murdered someone who may have resembled him. Left that someone's body in his apartment. You and your chauffeur make the natural assumption. The apartment is Wesley's. The body looks like Wesley's. Therefore, it must be Wesley.
No. That's not what happened. It was Wesley.
My dear Mr. Hale, most of our assumptions are based not on absolute truth, but what seems to be apparently true.
Oh, will you shut up?
Mr. Hale, I know you're upset, but I cannot permit...
Just stop talking for a minute, will you? Just stop acting as if you know everything. You're always gadding away. No wonder you never got married.
I don't believe that my personal affairs...
I bet you never had an affair either. You couldn't stop talking long enough. Will you listen to me a minute? Wesley Carradine is dead. You know how I know? I'll tell you. He is dead because I killed him.
Mr. Hale...
You don't have to say anything. You really have nothing to add to this conversation. I killed Wesley Carradine.
You realize what you're saying?
Yes, I know what I'm saying.
You realize I could go to the police?
Oh, no. No, you won't go.
You intend to stop me by force?
Yes. You see, there's a gun on my dresser. Wesley's gun. It's got a bullet in it. I could kill you, but I don't have to, because you will not go to the police.
How can you be so sure?
What? Because you wouldn't betray me.
I have a higher obligation as a citizen.
Well, it wouldn't do you any good. All you have is your unsupported word. I can deny it. Miss Caldwell, the police investigated that murder very thoroughly. I was a routine suspect. I had an unshakable alibi. I had spent that evening with a young lady.
She can be found. That alibi can be broken.
But she has since disappeared into the vast anonymity of her kind and class.
Isn't it possible she may return one day for blackmail?
Well, I have information concerning her which could be as damaging as anything she could say about me.
Mr. Hale, I'll be leaving.
Leaving?
I don't want to stay in a house with a murderer.
But you can't leave me here alone.
You've always lived here alone?
I cannot be alone now.
You're a murderer.
But you can't prove it.
Of course not. And that means the state can't punish you. But there is another punishment. There is another retribution. You'll never know a moment's peace for the rest of your life. You will always hear Wesley Carradine's voice. You will always see his face.
Oh, Miss Caldwell, please listen. You don't know how it is.
You broke a man-made law. You violated a God-given commandment.
I did. I know that I did.
Then take your punishment.
Take your punishment. You can say that. That's what strong people say. That's what Wesley said. Take your punishment.
What punishment, Mr. Hale?
I needed that mine, that Langley Jewett mine. Everything else had gone down the drain.
You had been losing other people's money. You faced a day of reckoning.
How did you know?
Oh, it's all too familiar a situation. A trustee, an executor, an administrator. You act as all three in many cases. You were false to your trust.
Don't say it. It's enough that Wesley said it. I didn't know that I was going to kill Wesley. I didn't dream of it. I stopped by at his apartment that night just to check out some routine affairs, and he...
He what?
He said... I'll never forget the way he said it.
We're not going to steal that mine, Arthur.
What?
We'll offer $10 million.
What are you talking about?
Well, now, 15 would even be more fair.
Should I get a doctor?
That's what we'll offer.
We have an option to buy that mine for $30,000.
No, but that would be stealing.
Oh, you're crazy.
Well, to knowingly buy something for the tiniest fraction of its worth is to cheat.
But it's legal and legitimate business.
It's cheating.
Oh, and you never cheated in your life, huh?
Yes, much too often and far too often. Now, Mrs. Jewett is a widow. She has children to support and educate. and we are stealing from her.
What happened to you all of a sudden?
I feel that I want to go home. I have to go home. I wrote my folks. They're expecting me.
Now, look, I have losses I have to make up. I can go to jail.
Oh, I am sorry, but if you keep sailing so close to the wind, sooner or later the boat tips over.
Well, what are you going to do? Now, forget all about this fancy philosophy.
Tomorrow morning, I'll call on Mrs. Jewett, and I'll tell her we intend to make a realistic offer for the mine.
But she is happy to get $30,000.
My mind is made up.
Millions? You'll offer millions? Where will we get those millions?
We'll operate the mine and pay as we go.
No, I won't do it.
Now, look, I am in as deep as you are. We both have to pay a price.
Well, I won't let you.
I am sorry. There is nothing you can do about it.
But there was something that I could do about it. I went home, I got my revolver. I went back there, and I shot him. And then I ransacked the place to make it appear to be robbery. The police investigated for a few weeks, and then it was filed and forgotten.
Perhaps it wasn't forgotten by Wesley Carradine. He's been trying to talk to you.
Oh, no. It's my imagination. Oh, I feel better now. I had to talk to someone. I had to confess to someone, and now I feel better. The weight is off of my soul. It's all in my imagination, and I can control that.
Tell that to Wesley Carradine. He wants to talk to you.
Oh, no. It's off my imagination.
I hear the phone. It's not in my imagination. I defy you. Pick up that phone. Talk to him. Talk to the man you murdered.
No, I can't.
Then I'll tell him. Yes, I know who it is. He says he will not talk to you. Very well. I'll tell him.
What are you going to tell me?
He wants to see you.
No, I don't want to. I can't see him.
Then confess you killed him.
I did.
Not to me. I don't count. Confess to the police.
No, don't make me do that.
If you want to know peace, you'll have to do that. Or
what?
do what he told you in his note when he sent you the gun. Use it well. One is all you need.
Oh, no, never.
It has to be one way or the other.
What's that?
You know what that is, the doorbell. Are you expecting anyone? Of course you are. Will you let him in, or shall I?
No, tell him to go away.
I can't tell him to go away. You can.
How?
Confess to the police, or follow his advice.
No, I won't do it. You don't scare me. You're just a thing in my imagination. You don't scare me.
I was downstairs in the kitchen, Lieutenant. He was upstairs in his room. He was terribly upset. I heard a shot. I was frightened. I ran upstairs, and there he was, lying in bed with the revolver beside him.
You say he was depressed. He wasn't himself.
Well, you saw that, Lieutenant, when he was in your office.
Yeah. I am convinced that he killed Wesley Carradine.
You are?
Yeah. You get a hunch about people in my work. Unfortunately, you don't always get the evidence to back it. So I said to myself, here is a clear case of conscience bringing the man down.
It does look that way. He confessed the murder to me.
Yeah, I guess that's about the size of it. Except, why should his conscience have started to bother him?
Who knows?
Maybe you know.
Me?
Well, I have a theory. I don't want to bother running it down because I have too much else to do. And this case wraps up very neatly. You want to hear my theory?
I'd love to.
Well, you say you were recommended to Mr. Hale by Mrs. Penelope Terwilliger.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if I were to get in touch with Mrs. Terwilliger and ask her to verify that? What would she say?
You won't know. Unless and until you ask her.
Well, I don't want to do that. Because if she says I don't know Miss Caldwell, then I have no involvement.
I see.
Now, about the phone calls. You are the only one who ever answered the phone, and you are the only one who ever heard that voice. You are the one who said it called itself Wesley Carradine.
That's what it said to me, Lieutenant.
Yeah, well, let me go a little further. The revolver. Oh, you could have sent it to Mr. Hale.
But it was obviously Wesley Carradine's. Where would I have gotten it?
Well, I'll answer that question in just a moment. And the card.
Where could I have gotten a card with his handwriting?
Where? From a Mother's Day present or a birthday present? You might have saved it.
What are you saying?
If your name is Mrs. Carradine, everything falls into place. Now, you would have the old gun. You would have cards from old Gifts. Oh, incidentally, What did he once buy you that he inscribed with, "Use it well. One is all you need"? You would know enough valid inside things about Wesley which you might use to frighten Hale.
It certainly is a fascinating theory.
Oh, it gets better. Now, we are summoned to this address. We find Hale dead. A bullet wound, apparently self-inflicted. Now, he could have been napping. He could have been shot from very close range, what we call suicide distance.
Yes, I understand you found his fingerprints on the revolver.
Well, why shouldn't we? If somebody put the gun in his hand afterward.
Oh, yes, it's a fascinating theory. Tell me, Lieutenant, what happens to theories like yours?
Well, in this case, it appears open and shut. A man commits suicide. Now, I know for a fact he's been depressed. His conscience has been bothering him. But why do I have to go running around looking for complications, huh? What do you think?
I think you're a most sagacious and sensitive police officer. And I want to thank you very much.
Thank him for what? Who knows? So who killed Mr. Arthur Randolph Hale? His own hand, guided by remorse, or Miss Caldwell? Or is she Mrs. Carradine? You have as much evidence as we do. Why should we perform all the work? I shall return shortly. A little while ago, when this particular story began, we spoke about the wind and the flame. How the same wind can kill or give greater life to a blaze. And so it is within ourselves. We are the flame, our conscience is the wind, and we blaze or sputter according to those forces within us. We do a lot of blazing and a little bit of sputtering, just to give it variety, 7 times a week, right here. Our cast included Celeste Holm, Norman Rose, and Earl Hammond. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. And now, a preview of our next tale.
It's recording a vibration with an amplitude of nearly 60 millimeters.
Preliminary tremors already, but our calculations...
No. It's too strong for that. What's the depth?
It's only 70 feet.
But I don't get it.
What?
Well, look where it's coming from. Transpose the coordinates.
The valley? But that's safe ground. It's solid bedrock.
It seems to be moving at a steady pace. Good Lord.
What?
Look at the screen. Look where it's headed.
Straight toward the fault line.
What's the amplitude now?
It's still 60 millimeters.
Still? Are you sure?
Whatever it is 60 millimeters, it's still strong enough that if it comes into contact with the fault...
Wait, hang on.
No, I'm calling the mayor, and if he won't listen, I'm calling the National Guard.
It's no use, Sam. If it's the real thing, it's too late.
Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by Buick Motor Division and Sign-Off, the sinus medicines. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
from E.G. Marshall. Man is beset with irrational fears called phobias, excessive persistent terror of a particular thing or situation. This morbid fear has no reasonable cause, and therefore cannot be eliminated or even modified by reasoning with its victim. One of the most common phobias takes its name from the Latin claustrum, meaning a closed place. Thus, claustrophobia is an abnormal dread of being kept in a confined space, unable to leave it. Mona Clayton, Broadway star, is so afflicted.
Out. Out. Let me out. The walls. They're closing. They're closing. They'll crush me to death. Help. Help. Help me. Take me out. Please. Please take me out. Out.
Our mystery drama, Who Has Seen the Wind, was especially written for the Mystery Theater by Nancy Moore and stars Michael Tolan and Terry Keane. It is sponsored in part by True Value Hardware Stores. I'll be back shortly with Act One. The lot of an actor's agent seems an enviable one. All those dazzling actresses for clients. A constellation of stars to set on their courses. Take Gary Stewart. He recently married one of those actresses, Kitty Lockwood. And soon he will try to set on her course another client, Mona Clayton, who is about to receive a coveted British award. We're in New York. All night, snow has fallen. The city this early morning is chastely white, unspoiled by sludge, smudge, and people. In Gary Stewart's Park Avenue apartment, a sudden rude sound.
Oh, who the devil?
What time is it, Gary?
How do I know? Turn on the light.
6 o'clock. What maniac would call it 6?
Answer the thing, Kitty.
You answer. I'm asleep.
Kitty, the phone's on your side.
Oh, all right. Hello?
Oh, thank heaven.
Mona?
Kitty, darling, I'm terribly sorry to wake you, but
You're up in an airplane. You're on your way to... Are you calling from the plane?
No, that's not until 8 o'clock. And unless you or Gary come over here this minute, I won't be on the plane.
Come over? What are you talking about?
The most absurd thing is... Bobo, do stop whimpering. Kitty, Bobo's so nervous he knows something's wrong. Well, wait, I want to pick him up.
Yeah, muzzle him while you're at it.
Oh, dear, I can't reach him. Oh, hold on, will you, Kitty? Just hold on.
I'm holding. Honestly, Gary, 6 o'clock.
What's going on?
She's picking up that little beast of a poodle so he won't yap into the phone.
I mean, why did she call?
She just babbled so far. Something about she wants us over there.
Over? We were there last night. She's supposed to be on her way to London. Something's going wrong, huh?
I gather. Something about she can't catch the plane unless we... I don't know. Lean in and listen.
Kitty, are you there?
I'm here. Now, what is this all about?
Oh, Bobo's all nerves. He catches it from me. He ran under the bed. That's why I was so long.
Mona, I have had exactly no sleep. Now, what is this about?
Come over to my apartment and bring the set of keys I gave you.
Those keys are so I can water your plants. Water them now?
Do stop making jokes when everything is so terrible. Will you just come? You or Gary or both. But the most ridiculous thing happened. See, I set my alarm for 5:45. My service had a wake-up call, but I never trust them. Well, the alarm rang, and the phone rang, too.
It's splendid. So did ours.
Well, I got up. I got right up. I went to the door, my bedroom door, and My dear, it would not open.
So?
Don't you see? I can't get out of my bedroom. I cannot open the door. It is stuck.
Mona, for heaven's sake, stop being so helpless. Doors in $2,000 a month penthouses do not get stuck.
But it is.
Well, maybe it's a little bit stuck. With the slightest effort on your part.
I tried and I tried and I pulled and I pulled. It is stuck, Kitty. It will not open.
Kit, I noticed it last night. It really was sticky.
Is that Gary? What's he saying?
More to the point, what are you saying?
Will one of you come over here before I lose my mind? The wretched door opens inward. If you push and I pull, it'll open.
Give me the phone.
Mona, here's Gary.
Oh, Gary?
Mona, now listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
All you need to do is phone your night porter. He'll get the pass keys and he'll help you.
No, there isn't any night porter or day porter or super or anything.
Oh, Lord, I forgot the maintenance strike.
So will you come, Gary, please? And hurry. I can't stand this much longer. The walls, just come. Hurry.
Now, wait. Now, listen. You can yell out the window, help, lady in distress. Get somebody's attention and tell them to go to security. Security can get the keys from...
There is no security either. Anyhow, I can't yell and get any attention. I'm too high up and I am on a course.
Oh, you had to live in a penthouse.
Oh, boo. Don't cry, darling. Gary is coming right away. Gary?
That's right. Don't cry, darling. Gary is coming right away.
Oh, you're sweet. You are so sweet. Oh, but I'll miss my plane. I know I will. And I won't get my British award.
Yes, you will. Now, look, you be ready, coated, hatted, booted, and I'll have a taxi waiting.
And don't say take a later plane, because they're having that huge award reception, and the time can't be changed, and I won't...
Mona, hang up. Oh, she is the most Oh, well. I hate to leave this warm nest and go out into that cold, cold world.
Then don't.
Don't go? Leave Mona like that?
Leave my closest friend, my award-winning claustrophobic closest friend, locked up like a felon? Sweetheart, my love, I am not saying that. Of course I'm not. I am saying I'll go and you can nestle snug in your bed.
You're kidding.
Get back in and I will get out. I don't mind. Really, honestly, I don't. Oh, I mind. Mona never should have closed a dumb door she knew would stick, but since somebody has to go, I don't mind.
Kit, you're being awfully slow. Mona really will miss her plane.
I guess I'm not awake yet. Where on earth is my cherries and the snow lipstick?
Snow on the ground and you have to wear an appropriate lipstick?
Aha! That'll be Guess Who. Where are you? Why aren't you here?
No, I've got it. This is Gary Stewart on a recording. Sorry I'm not home. After the beep sound, please leave your message, name, and number. I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Hush, Bobo.
Beep.
Gary, this is Mona. Where are you? Please, hurry. It's just awful here. On the plane, I can take tranquilizers and 2 sleeping pills, and I can sleep, and I can stand it. But here, and it's a wonder I could call you, because I told the phone company to cut off my phone, because I'll be gone for 3 months, and... Gary? Oh, it's one of those wretched recording things. Goodbye.
She bought it.
Yeah, honestly, it's a wonder she knows how to walk across the stage. Gary, how can she be such a good actress? I mean, scatterbrained, never knows what she's doing.
That's how, by never knowing what she's doing. Brains never got in Mona's way. She's an instinctive actress.
Yeah, whatever that means. Anyhow, it's what I am not. And it's why she won the award and I didn't. Best American actress in a British play.
You're every bit as good an actress. If you played that juicy part, you'd have copped the award yourself. Hey, Kit, you're dawdling again.
All right. You wear slacks, don't you think?
I just think hurry. Mona's hysterical.
Yeah, these nice warm red slacks. Red slacks in the snow. And why didn't I play the juicy part? Because my agent, Gary Stewart, sold Mona Clayton to the producer instead of his wife, Kitty Lockwood Stewart.
Now, Kitty.
Yes, I know. The producer wanted a teensy doll baby beauty of a Dresden China blonde, and Kitty is a tall brunette.
For the zillionth time, honey, that wasn't the reason. You're a comedian. The part called for straight drama. Tragedy.
All the same, I may kill my tall, plain, dark self. What should I do? Pills, gun, gas, poison, jump? Which is best? Where are my boots?
Last night you kicked them under the bed.
Oh. Why did I ever agree to this trek through the snow at dawn?
Because you're an absolutely smashing wife.
Mona got the award, but I got Gary. Oh, my love. My only love. Tell your insecure bride for the zillionth time you're not sorry you married me instead of Mona.
Absolutely not sorry.
You want to bet?
Now, gimme. This is a recording.
No. She needs to be warned you're not coming. Her big, brave Gary. Mona, I'm on my way as soon as I find my other boot.
Oh, but I thought, Gary, it's been so long. It's so terrible. The walls. The walls, they're pushing in. And Bobo wants his breakfast. Where's Gary? Kitty?
Mona, now just hang on tight. Now, I'm coming right now. Do you understand? Right now. Boy, she's on the ragged edge. I know her. I've seen her like this. I gotta get there fast. Find my other boot while I put on my coat, okay? How could she fall apart so fast?
Yes?
Mona, I just want to tell you that Kitty's on her way. She's gone from here about 5 minutes. In another 5, she'll be walking into your front door.
And opening the bedroom one?
Right. Are you dressed and ready?
Yes, I'm wearing my red suit, the one you like. Oh, you are so sweet to call.
Now just hang on. Kitty will be there. Hey, someone just came in our front. Look, I gotta go. I hope you catch your plane, honey. Have a nice award. Kitty.
Oh, listen, I'm just as freaky as Mona. I forgot to take her keys. Waiting for a taxi, suddenly I realized just thank the Lord I didn't go all the way to Mona.
Well, get the keys and get going, kid.
I don't even know where they are. They ought to be in my purse, but they're not. Just help me look.
Well, they're here somewhere. We came straight in here when we got home last night.
Oh, I will never call Mona scatterbrained again. I am worse. And, Gary, I can't get a taxi. It's too early. All that snow.
Well, walk then. It's only 5 blocks.
Where are the keys? They're not here.
Hey, your pockets.
What?
That coat. You wore it last night. Look in the pockets.
Oh, my Lord. I really will kill myself for this.
Go, darling. Just go.
Now, precious. Aunt Kitty's on the way. I don't know why it's taking so... Shh. Bobo. The front door. Kitty?
I'm here. Kitty to the rescue.
Hush, Bobo. I'm right here beside the door.
And I'm right here on the other side.
All right. Push hard, and I'll pull. Kitty, what are you doing?
Mona, I am pushing hard.
Well, harder. You have got to do it harder. Kitty!
It won't budge.
Kick it. Harder.
I'll kick it flat out. I'm so mad at it.
Nothing.
Darling, listen now. It won't open. It will not open.
Well, it has to. I can't stand it. It has to.
claustrophobia, an excessive abnormal dread of being in a confined space. Mona Clayton, confined, filled with terror, with torment, and the door remains closed. Such an obsession worsens with the passage of time, thus worsens in Act 2, which will unfold shortly.
Here's important news from Amana. Now, when you buy an Amana Touchmatic 2 radar range microwave oven, model RR10A, you get a $50 rebate. And when you buy a Touchmatic model RR90A, you get a $40 rebate. That's right. You can get up to $50 back from Amana, depending on which radar range oven you buy. And you get something besides money, too. The exclusive Rotowave cooking system. Rotowave works like a rotating shower of power, rotating the microwaves directly down into the food. As a result, all sorts of foods cook faster than ever before. And they cook more evenly than ever before without a lot of turning. Now's the time to see your participating Amana retailer and cook up a good deal. Buy an Amana Touchmatic 2 radar range oven model RR10A and get $50 back. Or buy a Touchmatic RR90A and get $40 back from Amana. Offer good through February 29th, 1980.
At the end of Act 1, I spoke of Mona Clayton's obsession. But is that a correct description of her problem? I consulted Mr. Webster. He tells me that the word obsession once had an occult meaning, a person possessed by a demon. That original connotation is now obsolete, but I'm strongly inclined to apply it to what is taking place in Mona. Ask yourself, during Act 2, if she does not seem possessed by an evil spirit.
Now, Mona, listen to me. Stop crying and listen. I pushed the door as hard as I can. Now, don't get scared when I stop talking to you. I have not deserted you. I'm just going into the living room to find something to ram the door with. Mona?
I hear you. How could a door stick like this?
I don't know. Is it damp, maybe? I don't know. Now, just hang on to the doorknob, and I will be right back.
Don't stay in there. Come back. Come. Gary. Yes. A phone. Yes. Oh. Ring. You're not ringing. It's dead. They shut it off. Oh, no. No, not yet. Oh, please, not yet. Gary, fix it, please fix it. Make it ring.
Mona.
They cut off the phone. It's dead.
Mona, listen to me. Come back to the door. It doesn't matter about the phone.
It does. I can't call Gary.
You do not need to call Gary. Now, listen. I've got this chair now. I can run at the door with it. It'll ruin your Chippendale antique. It's a battering ram now. Now just stand back from the door and don't be scared of the sound. Okay?
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Nothing.
I'll try again.
It won't work. Nothing will work. I will be trapped here forever. I told you!
I don't believe this. The chair broke, but not the door.
You're not trying!
What?
You're not! You want me to miss my praise!
Mona!
You don't want me to get the award!
Mona, stop that. Now, just stop.
You're jealous because I won and you didn't.
Of course I would like to have won, but if it couldn't be me, I'm glad it's you.
You are not glad, and you are jealous. You are jealous of the award. You are jealous of Gary and me. He loved me first. You know he did. You are jealous because we had an affair.
He says you didn't, and I believe him.
We did.
I don't care if you did. I do care that you are working yourself into a frenzy. Now, you think you've missed your plane, and I'm afraid you have, but we still...
I don't care about the plane. I just want out of here, and you won't let me out. The walls are closing. They are closing, and you will keep me here forever.
Oh, no.
No one will come. Everyone will think I'm in London, and I can't phone, and you will leave me here to starve and die and be dead.
Mona, shut up. Now, I'm about to go and get somebody to break this door down. Somebody in the building, somebody in the street, somebody...
Then why don't you go? You just keep talking and talking.
If you want to know, I'm afraid to leave you alone when you're like this.
You see that? You see that? You don't want me out. You want me to go crazy. You tell me that I'm crazy.
You're talking crazy, that's all. Now, I'm not going out of here until you make me a promise. You promised me you will not go near the windows. I want you to get in bed, and I want you to stay there. Will you promise?
I don't want to go near the windows.
I have your promise.
But what if the walls close too tight?
They are not closing at all, Mona. You imagine it. You are to stay away from the windows. Yes, Mona?
Yes.
Well, you've got Bobo. You talk to him while I'm gone.
But he's asleep. How could he be asleep? He doesn't hear what happens to me either.
Mona, you were getting better for a minute. Count backwards from 100, okay? Anything to keep the awful thoughts out. Yes? All right?
All right. Go. Just go. 75, 74. The walls. 73, 72. I could get out through the courtyard. The snow. It's deep and soft. And I'd be out. Out! No. Kitty would like it if I... It's what she wants. Don't go near the windows, Mona. You're talking crazy, Mona. Windows. Kitty, where are you? Why haven't you found someone if you really want me out? You hate me. God, I'm talking crazy. Kitty's my friend. 65, 64, 63. Three windows. There are 3 windows. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, Kit, you're back. I got coffee all waiting for you. Mona on her way?
Listen, get your coat. I couldn't get the door open, and hurry.
Good Lord, Mona's still shut in that room?
Don't talk, just come. She is wild.
Well, why didn't you phone me? Oh, I know her phone is up. You could have used one of those street phones instead of coming all the way back to the apartment. I didn't
have change. Not one single dime, 1 nickel, 1 quarter. I couldn't phone.
You mean you...
Stop asking questions and come on. We can talk on the way. Can't get a taxi either. For heaven's sake, will you come?
All I can say is thank God we're joggers.
Who can jog in the snow? Oh, Gary, I've been away from Mona for hours.
Kit, not even 1 hour has passed since Mona first called. It's 5 to 7.
I can't believe it.
Well, believe it.
But to a claustrophobic locked in her room, 1 hour is a lifetime.
Yeah. You mean you couldn't find one person you could take into that apartment?
Gary, I told you, I rang and I knocked on both apartments below Mona, and I just gave up. Either everybody's in Florida or asleep or afraid to open the doors at 7 a.m. So I tore down the street and... How many people do you see on a snowy morning on Park Avenue in New York City at 7 o'clock?
All right, sweetheart, take it easy.
I'm sorry, I can't. I can't jog another step. I mean, jogging around Central Park in good weather is one thing. To 2-foot-high snow. I can't.
Okay, well, take it easy. We're almost there anyhow.
Gary, did you have an affair with Mona?
Oh, for Pete's sake.
All right, don't answer.
I certainly won't. You know the answer.
Do I?
Kitty, is this the time and place? Anyhow, we've been down this road a dozen times. And will you please not look like that, huh? All crumpled and sad. You're my happy girl, my girl that's 1,000 laughs.
Oh, yeah.
Now, will you please?
How's that?
Beautiful. You're marvelous.
I'm an actress.
Well, anyhow, it brought us right to Mona's building.
I think Lord Byron said it. And if I laugh at any mortal thing, 'tis that I may not weep.
Mona, we're here. The shoulder of Gary Stewart, former football star, against your door, and you're out of jail.
Less boasting, more action, darling.
Shut up, Bobo. Now stand back, Mona. Here I come. Mona?
Mona.
The window. It's open. Oh, my God. She's there. 16 stories down.
In the snow. Wearing a red suit. Cherries in the snow. Oh, Mona, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
You were asked to consider if Mona Clayton was possessed by a demon. In the light or the dark of what has happened, how do you answer? She had everything to live for, youth, beauty, talent, fame, yet she went out a window because she could not go out a door. Claustrophobia or an evil spirit? In Act 3, we'll find the surprising answer.
Your long association says smoke's not just your affair. That smoke screen that you puff around pollutes non-smokers' air. It's bad for the lungs, not up to par. It's damaging for you, of course, but your smoke travels far. Your long association says please keep this thought in mind. It's double damage all around and doubly unkind. So try to keep the habit and give everyone a break. Please do it for your life and breath and everybody's sake.
Your lung association and you know that cigarettes are a breathing hazard. Smokers, please don't add that extra offense. Give us a break for life and breath.
And if I laugh at any mortal thing, quoted Kitty Stewart, 'tis that I may not weep. But she cannot hide her tears with laughter anymore. It is 4 hours since Mona's death. Kitty lies in her own darkened bedroom, Bobo beside her, phone off the hook to avoid the intrusion of reporters and friends. But suicide is a police matter, and she can no longer avoid official questioning. Gary has just opened the bedroom door.
Kid, I've told Lieutenant Hench all the details. He's promised he won't keep you long. Just routine. Will you come now?
Routine for him, not for me. What's he like?
What you'd expect. Efficient, reasonably bright, a little bored maybe. Seen too much, heard too much. But very impressed with who you are.
Who am I?
Honey, don't talk like that. I'll tell you who Hench says you are. Broadway's favorite comedian.
charming. I must go to any lengths to make him laugh. Is he also impressed with who Mona was?
He didn't happen to mention that.
But Mona will be mentioned when I walk into that living room, won't she? Oh, poor Bobo heard Mona's name. See, if I stop holding him for 1 second, he begins to quiver. I think he knows what happened.
Kit, are you sure you want to keep him? You never really liked him before.
How could we not keep him? You know how Mona felt about this little creature. Bobo? Bobo, you promised Aunt Kitty you won't cry?
Oh, for Pete's sake, not baby talk. You sound like Mona. Sorry, I can't think of her as
Dead is the word, Gary. Mona is dead. And the fault is Kitty Lockwood.
Kitty, in the name of heaven, don't say things like that to Hench. All that junk you've been saying to me. It's nonsense. We both know it.
It's not what I know. I know it's my fault she's dead.
I can't stand here and argue and keep Hench waiting any longer. Now, please come, darling. And please be careful what you say.
Broadway's favorite comedian with red eyes and red nose will now make an entrance and try to remember not to say the wrong lines.
Real pleasure, Miss Lockwood, Mrs. Stewart. I saw you in Dust Off That Dream, best show around last fall.
Then you missed Mona Clayton in Who Has Seen the Wind.
Well, yes, in my line of work there's enough tragedy. I like comedy.
She won an important British award for her performance. If it weren't for what happened this morning, almost at this moment, she would be accepting that award.
Lieutenant, can we get on with this?
Yeah, sure. Mrs. Stewart, if you'll just describe for me the events as you know them before the suicide.
Lieutenant, I've said this to you twice before. Mona Clayton did not commit suicide.
And I've said to you that she went out a window 16 stories up, jumped to her death of her own volition. That is suicide.
She didn't do it to kill herself. She did it to get out of her room. What sent her through that window was claustrophobia, not a death wish.
You are both wrong. It was not suicide, not to escape a room. It was murder.
Oh, Kitty.
Oh, Mrs. Stewart, your husband warned me you might say something of this sort.
Lieutenant Hench, I murdered my friend as surely as if I pushed her out of that window.
And he explained why you would say such a thing. Shock, sorrow, undeserved guilt, because you weren't able to help her.
Undeserved guilt? Will you listen to my sins of omission, Lieutenant? I was slow dressing. I left this apartment without Mona's keys, had to come back. On the street again, I could have stopped an occupied taxi and explained the emergency. I didn't. I walked instead.
Honey, don't rehearse all this.
I have to. When I got to Mona's, I didn't push hard enough on the door. Then I didn't ring enough doorbells to get help. Back on the street, I hadn't the sense to bring even a dime in my purse. And again, I didn't look hard enough for somebody to help or flag a cab. I ran to Gary again.
Mrs. Stewart, none of that is murder. Bad luck, bad planning, but it's not murder. Regret for these things is understandable, but taking blame for your friend's death, no.
You really don't think that I...
No one could possibly think that. Now, Mr. Stewart, I believe your wife should go back and lie down. I can question her another time.
No. You've made me feel better. You really have, and I thank you. So you ask me whatever you need to.
That's better. Go ahead, Lieutenant. Finish.
All right. Mrs. Stewart, suppose you describe Miss Clayton's state of mind when you got to her apartment.
The fear kept increasing, especially when she found out the phone was disconnected. She was a little out of her mind, Lieutenant. She was talking crazy. That's why I didn't want to leave her. I mean, without someone to talk to, even on the phone, she'd be more afraid. But if I stayed, she was still locked in. So it was go, stay. It was a terrible decision. Did I make the wrong one? I don't know. I just don't know.
Sweetheart, you made the only one you could.
Can Lieutenant Hench say that to me?
I can and do. At any time, did Miss Clayton threaten to go out the window?
Never. But she did keep saying that the walls were closing in.
I believe that's a common delusion of people with her kind of phobia. How long had you known Miss Clayton?
Oh, over 10 years. I knew her very well. That's how I knew what she was going through this morning, and I failed her.
Lieutenant, isn't this enough?
Yes. Thank you, Mrs. Stewart. Sorry I had to put you through.
I'm not. Because you have made me feel less guilty.
Mr. Stewart, will you stay a moment longer?
Right. All right, kitten. I'll try to sleep.
I'll try.
Good. I won't come in till you call me. Kid, wake up. Come on, wake up.
Okay, you told me to sleep. Why are you waking?
You had quite a long sleep. Were you dreaming of Mona?
Mona. For a little while I could forget. Why did you wake me?
I have a report I think will interest you. It interested me.
A report?
I've been doing some investigating. It began by accident. After Lieutenant Hench left, I discovered I was out of cigarettes. I looked in your purse. I found not cigarettes, but something you didn't have. Change.
Money? Coins? You mean all the time?
3 dimes, 2 nickels.
All the time I could have phoned you?
Yes.
Must have been nerves caught from Mona. I rummaged too fast in my purse. I panicked. I ran for you. Oh, Gary.
Before you left Mona's building, you said you rang 2 doorbells. The apartment's on the floor below. Yes?
Yes.
But the tenants were asleep in Florida or afraid to answer the bells at that hour. Isn't that what you thought?
Well, I guess there could have been some other reason.
I rang those same doorbells. 16A, no answer. But the live-in maid at 16B did answer. She said she was up at 6 this morning and no doorbell had rung until I rang it.
Darling, what on earth are you... Are you suggesting I didn't go to those apartments?
It does seem a little odd, wouldn't you say?
No. The live-in maid could have been running the water. It could have been in the shower, couldn't she? Did you ask her that?
No. No, I had a lot of other puzzles in my mind. For example, your offer this morning to go to Mona instead of me. At the time, I thought it was very sweet of you.
And now you think?
That it was unnatural. You hate getting up early, you hate the snow, and I was the obvious person to go. You deny any of that?
No.
Second puzzle. Considering Mona's emergency, you were very slow dressing. Why? When you're always a fast dresser.
I told you I was half asleep, Gary. I was. Have you more puzzles?
You left here, went down to the street, stood around for 5 minutes or more waiting for a taxi when you could have walked to Mona's in that time. And then suddenly, or not so suddenly, highly efficient Kitty realizes she's forgotten to take Mona's set of keys.
I did forget them. I was worried about Mona, not thinking straight.
You don't find it odd that they were in your coat pocket all the time?
I don't find anything odd in a crisis situation.
Those several delaying tactics aren't odd?
I can't stand much more of this, Gary.
And not an odd coincidence that while you were dressing so slowly, you spoke of the fact that I, as Mona's agent, got her the envied role in Who Has Seen the Wind and did not get it for Kitty Lockwood?
Well, it is true, isn't it?
And not another odd coincidence that you asked me that tired, beat-up question? Did I have an affair with Mona?
To which you've always answered that you did not. But in the horrible light of what you've been saying to me now, I'm beginning to wonder.
You've always wondered. You never believed me or Mona. And you think the affair never stopped.
Well, then we're even, aren't we? I can't believe you've been faithful, and you can't believe I tried to save Mona this morning. That is what you've been saying, isn't it?
I could believe you tried, believe all your answers to my questions except for one fact. You could have opened Mona's bedroom door yourself.
What?
It took hardly any strength at all for me to open it. You could have done it almost as easily. If you wanted to.
That is not true. I tried with every ounce of strength I had. If you believe I didn't try, then why haven't you said so before?
I didn't give it any thought when it happened because that's when we found Mona. I only realized it since I began putting all the bits and pieces together.
So what is my devoted husband saying now that he's put them together?
You know what I'm saying. That fake confession of murder to Lieutenant Hance wasn't fake. It was fact.
No. No.
You've been jealous of Mona for years. Her looks, her acting, her success before yours. The fact that I loved her first. For her to win the British award was a blow your ego couldn't take.
Stop it, Gary.
Well, maybe at first you only meant to make her miss her plane. Miss all that public glory in London. And then standing by her stuck door, the phone out of service. Yeah. You realize what else you could do?
No. No. Oh, all right. Maybe subconsciously I did want her to miss her plane, but that's all. I swear I pushed her door as hard as I could. I even told her not to go near the windows while I was gone. I said that. If I wanted her to would I have said don't go near the window?
Yes. Neatly putting the idea in her head. Jump, Mona, jump.
Stop saying that. I won't listen. It's a lie.
Admit it, kid. You hated her. You wanted her dead.
She said that. Did I? I don't know anymore. I did hate her, I think. I didn't realize till now, but want her dead. Want to drive her to out the... Did I? Could I?
Well, did you? Could you?
No. I didn't do it. Or make her do it. And you can't prove I did. Oh, you'd like to, wouldn't you? You were always on her side, always got her the best parts. She gets the part in Who Has Seen the Wind. She wins the award. Well, lying there in the snow, that's winning.
You killed her. And you know it. Now it can't be proved. But you'll live with what you've done for the rest of your life. Alone. I won't be around. Goodbye, Kitty.
No. I didn't do it. Don't go, please, please.
I'll come for my things when you're not here.
Gary! Come back! Gary!
So, not Mona, but Kitty is possessed by a demon that has destroyed one and soon will destroy the other. At no time did Kitty's conscious mind think, I will be rid of Mona and never be accused of murder. No, the workings of her subconscious were dark and secret as it manipulated its creature to commit a deed never thought possible. I'll return shortly.
The CBS Radio Mystery Theater presents... Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Si fueres Romae, Romano vivito more. Or, when in Rome, live like a Roman. This was the counsel of no less a personage than the estimable St. Ambrose himself, some 1,600 years ago. Since then, there have been many attempts to interpret just exactly what that good man had in mind. But I should think it means what he intended it to mean. Quite simply, don't rock the boat.
I tell you, there are spirits in this country.
And I tell you, there's no such thing as spirits. What's the name of this place, anyhow? I can't even pronounce it.
What is that?
Oh, spirits.
Lily, didn't you just say there's no such thing as spirits?
Oh, I'm from Missouri, and they just showed me.
Our mystery drama, When in Rome, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Sam Dan and stars Fred Gwynne. I'll be back shortly with Act One. As even the most casual student of history knows, we won our independence from Britain some 200 years ago. But that was only our political independence. For other things, we were still very much in the shadow of Europe. For a long time, we remained a young and self-conscious nation. We thought of ourselves as provincial, uncouth, and uncultured. Our newly rich men had newly rich wives who couldn't wait to go to Europe to buy sophistication and perhaps a titled foreigner for a son-in-law. Let us then go back about 100 years and meet Mr. Henry T. Cahill.
How'd you do? Well, never fails, does it? Fella manages to put aside a hard-earned dollar or two, and the wife has already got it spent for him. Now, Livy isn't really a bad sort, but she has these ideas. What kind of ideas? Listen.
And why shouldn't you become an ambassador?
But I ain't qualified to be an ambassador.
Henry, isn't it a fact that you have $19 million?
Give or take.
You're qualified.
But I don't know anything about tariffs or balances or trade and Lord knows what all.
Well, you don't have to know a blessed thing. Look at the lot that's ambassadors now. Why, any of them is as ignorant as you are.
But I can't speak any foreign language.
None of them do. An American ambassador isn't supposed to say anything anyhow.
Well, what you supposed to do then?
Wear knee pants.
You'll have to catch me first.
Go to fancy balls and parties.
That lets me out.
Now, don't you upset me, Henry Thomas.
What does the job pay?
Well, hardly anything at all.
Why would anyone want it?
For the honor.
Honor? I can do without that. Thank you kindly.
Henry, now that Mr. Hayes is president...
Now, I got no time to fool with politics.
You go to see Congressman Stifle. Remind him how it happens that Mr. Hayes and not Mr. Tilden is sitting in the White House.
Please, Livy. I have no wish to go traipsing about all over the world. I'm not leaving home.
You go to see Congressman Stifle.
No, Livy.
No?
I'm putting my foot down, and that's got to be my final word on the subject.
Yours, maybe, but not mine. Henry, I warn you here, and I warn you now. Do not aggravate me. Do not irritate me, because...
Oh, all right. I get the idea. Livy, you see, is a woman of many words. She uses them to let you know exactly how you stand. Right now, I understood. I was standing right on the brink. So I went to see Congressman Morton B. Stifle.
Henry, I'm not sure it can be done.
What are you saying to me, Morton?
Please, ask for something within reason. Ask to get a special government regulation suspended. Ask to have a law passed or repealed. Ask even to get an amendment to the Constitution. But to be made an ambassador?
That's what I need, Morton.
What for, Henry? You get to take no end of abuse.
That's nothing new.
There's no future in it. When the next president comes in, you're out.
Morton, why are you giving me all these reasonable, sensible objections? Livy wants me to have the job.
Livy. I'll see what I can do.
I know you will.
It's just all the plums have already been passed out.
No, I don't have to have a plum. Just make sure I don't have a lemon.
London, Paris, Madrid, St. Petersburg, Berlin, Vienna. Too late for all the big ones.
Morton, don't waste my time and your energy with all the little details. Just make sure it's somewhere in Europe.
Lavaria?
Yes, Livy.
Well, I never heard of it.
It was the best they could do at this stage of the game.
Well, where is it?
Right here, on the map.
Where?
Between Austria and Romania.
Where?
You can hardly see it. Here, see? That little speck.
Oh, Henry, what have you done to me?
You're gonna love it. From there, you can travel to Paris, Venice, Rome.
Henry, is there really such a place?
Oh, yes. It's got a king and a queen and a royal court. Why, it's the greatest little country in the world. What was I going to tell her? And maybe it's all for the best. Let her spend some time in one of those places without plumbing, far from the good old USA. Yeah, she'd get this ambassador nonsense out of her head soon enough. But, as usual, I was wrong.
Oh, I love it.
You what?
Do you realize this is a castle? A medieval castle?
Yeah, you'll realize it all right in the wintertime when the winds blow in through those open windows.
It's so authentic. This table, these chairs, those tapestries on the wall, hundreds of years old.
Yeah, and they look it.
Oh, such a beautiful little country. Such a quaint little country. It's like some beautiful painting in a book of fairy tales.
Now, what are those bowls doing on the floor near the window?
Oh, that's the food. One is milk, and the other is vinegar.
What are they doing there?
The servants put them out. They're in every house in Bavaria. You see, they have to feed the spirits. Milk for the good spirits, vinegar for the bad ones.
Going along with this, why do they have to feed the bad ones?
Oh, they must. It's the law.
What law?
Well, they have such quaint superstitions. The people, well, they believe that human beings can take the shape of spirits and fly all over the world.
Now, Livy, that just doesn't make sense.
Oh, but they believe it. That's why you have to feed both types of spirits. You never can tell which could be your mother or father or, well, even you.
I thought all that kind of nonsense went out with the Middle Ages.
But, Henry, in this country, it still is the Middle Ages.
Livy was having the time of her life, hobnobbing with all the swells and, getting wide-eyed over all the quaint, mysterious customs of the peasants. For me, the time hung heavy. There wasn't much to do, and I had a smart young assistant.
Hey,
You sign here, please, sir, next to the X.
I see the X, Mr. Daly. Now, this says page 4.
Yes, sir.
That means this is a 4-page document.
That's right, sir.
Well, where are the other 3 pages?
Well, it's only necessary to sign this last one.
I would like to read the others.
You'd like to read them?
Well, let me have them.
But, sir, Ambassador Snell never bothered to read these documents, and neither did Ambassador Hastings before him, and Ambassador Cummings, and all the other ambassadors since I've been here.
Yeah, well, this here is Ambassador Henry Thomas Cahill, and we're starting a precedent.
Yes, sir.
Now, what's this? The Embassy Flower Garden. Permission is hereby requested to install tulip beds along the...
Well, sir, it's all very boring and filled with red tape, and I had hoped to spare you this nonsense.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. But I'll just have to put up with it. After all, it's my nonsense.
Oh, and what am I supposed to say when we are presented to the king?
Nothing. I got the drill from Brother Daly. This is a formal presentation at court.
Still?
And all you do is bow, smile. You say, "Thank you, Your Majesty."
And what else?
That's all. And then you back away and let the next couple be introduced.
Oh, Henry, you've made me so happy. Oh, you're such a kind, wonderful, understanding person.
Your Royal Majesties, I am honored to present the United States Ambassador, the Honorable Henry T. Cahill and Mrs. Cahill.
Your Majesty.
Your Majesty.
The Queen and I are happy to make your acquaintance and hope that your stay in our country shall be pleasant and fruitful.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
I look forward to our meeting on many happy occasions in the future.
That's all there was to it. I tell you, Livy was in her glory. She was also in a brand new gown from Gay Paris that cost me a few $100. But what's money? You have to keep them happy. Yeah, there she was, presented at court. Maybe not the court of St. James in London, but a genuine, legitimate royal court all the same.
How many people from Kansas City have ever been presented?
Do you suppose we can get to bed?
You mean you can even think of going to sleep?
Why not? It's midnight.
What did you think of him?
Of who?
The king. King Zulan. Who else?
No, him. He seems like a nice little fella.
Now, what sort of way is that to speak of?
He looks like he'd be a clerk in one of my warehouses.
A clerk?
Well, maybe chief clerk.
Oh, Henry, you are absolutely impossible. I'm almost afraid to ask what you thought of her.
The Queen?
Please, if it's going to be rude, I don't want to hear it.
All right, then I won't say it.
Good. How can it depend on that?
And now, can we get some sleep?
Good night.
Good night.
Henry?
Huh?
What did you think of the Queen?
Is that why you woke me up?
Oh, you weren't sleeping.
Well, do you remember Molly Bonnet?
No, I never heard of her.
The one who was put on trial and later hanged for shooting her husband?
Henry!
It was in all the papers.
Oh, I never read that part of the newspaper.
This Molly Bonnet now. She was the spick image of the Queen. They could have been twins.
Oh, that's impossible.
Why is it impossible? There are people all over the world who look alike.
Oh, but to liken the royal Queen Atala of Bavaria to a common murderess.
They both had the same pointy chin, same beady eyes, the same small teeth.
What are you talking about?
Look out for women with small teeth.
Oh, I think you're insane.
If you had a set of those tiny, sharp teeth, I'd have never married you.
Oh, excuse me, Henry. I'm going to sleep.
Good night.
Henry?
Yeah?
You're not making up a story, are you? I mean, this terrible Molly Bonnet? Did she really look like Queen Atala?
They could have been identical twins.
Well, That doesn't mean anything.
So, let's go to sleep.
But don't you go to sleep. We shall return here shortly with Act 2, and it's quite possible that we may develop this little theme a bit more in detail. You might ask, what if a person does look exactly like someone who had committed a murder? Is there a type? Stand by. In the 19th century, Central Europe was filled with tiny picture book kingdoms, all the color and pageantry that attended a royal court. It was all like a fairy tale. And as we know, in fairy tales, everyone lived happily ever after. But happy endings are not the rule in life, which is real and earnest. And who knows what was really concealed beneath all the tinsel and glitter? We will find out as our story unfolds. Good morning, Mr. Ambassador.
Good morning, Daly.
Did Mrs. Cahill enjoy the reception?
Mrs. Cahill is in seventh heaven. Tell me about Queen Atala.
Oh, yes, sir. What would you like to know?
Now that you mention it, I'm not sure. For instance, did she have a twin sister?
No, sir.
You're sure about that?
Oh, absolutely. She comes from one of the oldest noble families in Bavaria. She was the only daughter of the Grand Duke Aroy.
Well, that theory is shot. What's on the docket this morning?
Well, a dispatch to be sent to Washington by diplomatic courier. It requires your signature.
Is this it?
Yes, sir.
Once again, I see by the number that you've given me the last page. Where's the rest of it?
Oh, but, sir, this is a secret transmission.
A secret? From me? I am the ambassador.
Oh, well, yes, sir, but it's just that none of the other ambassadors...
I know. They never bothered. Hand them over, please.
Yes, sir.
What's the subject of this thing?
It's an analysis of the political situation in Liberia for the guidance of our Secretary of State.
And it's prepared here by the embassy?
Yes, sir.
Who wrote it? You?
Well, not exactly, sir. You see,
Out with it, Mr. Daly.
Well, it was basically prepared by Count Rospro.
The Prime Minister of Liberia.
Who knows the political situation here better than he does?
Isn't this supposed to be the embassy's evaluation?
Oh, sir, Count Rospro's a very honorable and patriotic man.
The long and short of the thing is, then, Daly, simply this. Some foreigner who may or may not have an axe to grind writes a paper for the guidance of the U.S. government, to which I sign my name, and everyone thinks it comes from me.
When you put it that way, sir, But all the other ambassadors have always done it. It saves so much time and effort.
Our time and effort is what we're being paid for. Leave this here with me. I'll read it.
But Count Rospro thinks this should be transmitted to Washington without delay.
Mr. Daly, who are you working for, Count Rospro or the United States?
Why, Mr. Ambassador, how could you even ask?
Just answer the question.
Well, of course I'm working for the United States.
Good. Just make sure I never have to remind you of that fact again.
Where were you, Henry?
In my office, working.
You were supposed to take me to the garden party at the French embassy. Now, this is the third time this week.
I didn't come here to go to parties, Livy. I'm here to look after the best interests of the United States.
You have a staff to look after that sort of business.
I didn't make $19 million by having my staff look after any sort of business. Livy, there's something going on in this country.
What?
I don't know, but I don't like it.
But if you don't know, how do you know you don't like it?
I operate on hunches.
But you don't have to operate at all, Henry. Why can't you just enjoy yourself?
Who says I'm not enjoying myself?
Ah, Mr. Ambassador, so kind of you to come to see me.
What's on your mind, Count Rospro?
You are truly the impulsive American, plunged right into the current. Very well. I understand that your office has not transmitted its political analysis to Washington as yet.
May I ask just how you understand that?
Usually, I would have been told.
Why? With all due respect, Count, How does this private matter between me and my government concern anyone else?
Well,
let us say the embassy is now operating on a new set of procedures, Count Rospro.
Well, I assure you, Mr. Ambassador, that we have only tried to be helpful.
Sure. I notice you don't think too much of the king.
How can you say that?
You say in your report that he is roundly disliked throughout the country, and that he may even expect to be assassinated.
Unfortunately, he is not popular.
Pardon, my dearest,
Your Majesty, may I present Mr. Cahill, the American ambassador?
I had the honor to be presented to Your Majesty at court.
Of course. And how is Mrs. Cahill?
First rate, Your Majesty.
Oh, you are busy, Count Rospro. So I shall not disturb you further.
I was just about to leave.
No, I insist. Count, the king is expecting you to join us for tea.
I will be honored.
Goodbye, Mr. Ambassador. And you and your wife should not be strangers at our court.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
And now, Mr. Cahill. Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Our loyalty must be to our king. But we know in our hearts that there is much opposition to him in the country. Should the worst happen, we should like to have the understanding and the cooperation of the United States.
Count, do you expect the worst to happen?
Well, these things, they are in the hands of fate.
As I was about to leave the palace, a uniformed servant told me that the king himself wished to see me.
I heard you were visiting the Prime Minister.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Oh, we are alone, and this is an unofficial meeting, so why don't you call me Zuli?
Zuli?
My name is Zulan, and I will call you Henry. Or are all Americans named Henry called Hank? Hank, I like that better. Do you like my country, Laverian?
Oh, very much.
We are fortunate it is still here.
Where could it go, Your Majesty?
Oh, it could disappear. It could become part of Germany, Austria, Russia. All of them want to take us over.
May I ask, what's stopping them?
Me, for one thing.
You?
I know. You're probably saying to yourself, but he's such a little fellow. Why should these giants be scared of him?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I am King Sulan the 30th. I am a descendant of the oldest royal house in the world. The kings of all these other countries are afraid to destroy me.
Why?
The overthrow of one royal house is a threat to all of them. And so, while I am alive...
Your Majesty, tell me, did your wife ever have a twin sister?
Oh, of course not.
It's remarkable.
What is remarkable?
Coincidence.
Zula! Oh, I did not know you were busy, Zulan.
Your Majesty.
Well, it seems we are fated to run into each other constantly, Mr. Ambassador.
It's always a pleasure, Your Majesty. There was a minute or so of chit-chat, and then I was able to leave. Interesting. When she'd broken into the meeting I had with Rospro, she was all breathless and excited and beautiful, just like a woman who was in love. When she walked in here, her face was mean, pinched. She looked exactly like Molly Bonnet, who had murdered her husband. Well, was I making too much of it? Back in my office.
You sent for me, Mr. Ambassador?
Daly, suppose this country was snapped up by one of the giants. Who'd gain by it?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't? 3 of the biggest empires in Europe want this place. What's stopping any one of them from grabbing it is fear of the other 2. Now, if the king is assassinated, there's going to be a free-for-all. which could lead to war from one end of Europe to the other.
All because of Bavaria?
They don't care about Bavaria. It's just that they're always looking for an excuse for war. And here they got one that's tailor-made. Now, Daly, you're going to find out if there's any real sentiment against the king in this country.
Yes, sir. I'll have the answer for you tomorrow morning.
No, Daly. You'll need more time than that, my boy.
Oh, no, sir. I'll just ask Count Rossborough.
No, you will not.
But, sir, he has all the answers.
Except the ones we're looking for. No. Daly, you go out among the people and see what you can pick up.
But I don't speak Bavarian.
Here's a dictionary and a grammar. Sit up all night.
But
learn fast.
Henry, there's something we must discuss.
Now, Libby, when it's time to go to sleep...
Well, it's the only time I ever get to see you. You're always so busy.
I'm a servant of the American taxpayer.
The Queen held a tea for the wives of the diplomatic corps. I was not invited.
No? Are you sure?
I took it up with Mr. Daly, and he told me, in confidence, that I was being punished because of you.
Really? What have I done?
You have insulted Count Rossborough.
Insulted?
Oh, displeased.
That's probably true.
Oh, Henry, how could you?
Because I don't serve here at Count Rossborough's pleasure.
But why would you do anything to alienate a man like Count Rossborough? Why, he's the most powerful person in the kingdom.
Is that a fact? I thought the king himself was the most powerful.
Henry, I demand an explanation.
I could give you one, but I'm not sure you'd like to hear it.
I'm entitled to hear it.
Count Rossborough is having an affair.
Rossborough? Why, he's a man of spotless reputation. I certainly don't want to be a party to any such most malicious slander.
Okay, then let's just forget it.
Henry, who's he having an affair with?
The Queen.
Oh, I don't believe it.
Yeah, well, that's not the worst of it, Livy. I think they're plotting to assassinate the king.
Whether we're dealing with royalty or commoner, love follows laws of its very own. Just as nature abhors a vacuum, so does love oppose a triangle. It's the old familiar story of wife, husband, and best friend. And even if it takes place in a tenement, something or somebody has to give, which is what we shall ascertain in Act 3. Kings and queens have always been perceived as lofty, distant people, far removed from the petty concerns of daily life that beset the rest of us. But when we think of kings and queens as husbands and wives, suddenly we see them in a different light. The concept of marriage suddenly makes them human. All too human.
But the Queen? And Count Rossborough? He's the very soul of honor. Oh, Henry, how can you imply those two are having an affair?
I'm not implying. I'm stating a fact.
And murder? Why, it's impossible.
Livy, how did I make $19 million?
Oh, don't start that.
By being able to judge people's character, right?
But to accuse?
I haven't accused anybody yet. In public. Have I?
Now, you make sure this conversation doesn't go beyond this room, Henry. I'm warning you.
I don't care what she or anyone else thought. I knew I was right. I had a little talk with my assistant, Mr. Undersecretary Daly.
You know, Mr. Ambassador, these are very superstitious folks in this country.
You're first making that discovery, are you? Daly, how long you been here?
Well, it's the first time I ever ventured forth into the countryside.
How do the people feel about the king?
Oh, they love the king.
And the queen?
Well, I'm not sure.
What's the problem?
I just couldn't find out.
And Count Rossborough?
Well, when he was a student at the university for a while, he was, I suppose you could say, a subversive.
What kind?
Well, it seems he favored a union of Bavaria with Austria.
He did?
They even suspected he'd been carrying on correspondence with Emperor Franz Joseph.
And what happened?
Oh, I guess his father, old Count Rospro, gave him a severe talking to. And I suppose after a while he outgrew it.
Maybe he didn't, maybe he didn't.
Was there anything else you wanted, sir?
Yes. I wanted to go home. A storm was brewing here in this two-bit kingdom. And I could be caught right in the middle. Just called for some fancy footwork. So I decided to poke around and see what I could scare up for myself. One afternoon, I took a walk out into the country. I stopped off at one of those country taverns. It was so picturesque, I could hardly stand it.
Yes, and what will the rich American gentleman have?
How do you know I'm a rich American gentleman?
All Americans are rich gentlemen.
How do you know I'm American?
Oh, we are all what you would say experts on America here. In America are no bad spirits.
Is that a fact?
Oh, yes. Bad spirits in America are punished. Here, we must feed them.
You really believe this?
Certainly. And we are told we must feed them.
Oh, yes, I know. Yeah. A bowl of vinegar and a bowl of milk.
Every night.
Yeah.
Yes. Each is set out by the window, and every morning each is empty. Spirits have eaten.
That doesn't necessarily prove the spirits drank it.
No? Well.
I looked at that man's face. He actually believed what he was telling me. Well, that night, as I was going to bed, I noticed the two little bowls near the window. What are they doing here, Libby?
Henry, I told you. Milk and vinegar to feed the good and evil spirits.
You believe that?
When in Rome, Henry.
Oh, sure.
Wait, you'll see. Tomorrow morning, those bowls will be empty.
What were the facts? In the evening, the little bowls were full. In the morning, they were empty. Therefore, somebody had to come in and empty them. But who? And why? Well, I decided to find out. And so I tried to remain awake. I tried, and it became later and later and later. My eyelids became heavier and heavier. I struggled to keep them open. Did I actually see? Was there a bright and beautiful presence in the room? And then there was an ugly, rough and rasping noise. Could these be the spirits? The good ones and the bad? I tried to peer into the darkness. I tried and tried. Then the bright sunlight was streaming into the room. It was morning. I jumped out of bed. I looked at the bowls. They were empty.
Oh, Henry, is that you?
Yes, Livy, it's me.
Is something wrong?
Livy, to tell you the honest truth, I really don't know.
Sir, a cable has just arrived from the State Department.
Read it.
Yes, sir. I just finished decoding it, sir. It says, stability of Bavarian government is vital to the interests of the United States. Suggest you do everything possible to maintain it, if indeed it is being threatened. Signed, the Secretary.
That's what it says.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How and with what can we maintain the stability of the Bavarian government?
Well, why don't we ask Count Rospro, sir? He knows everything.
You know something, Daly? You show positive signs of genius. Sometimes.
So kind of you to come to see me, Mr. Ambassador.
Getting down to business, Count, would you answer me a question?
Certainly.
Is it true that you were a member of a student group that tried to forge a union between Bavaria and the Austrian Empire? And are you still trying to do it?
Those are two questions.
Is the answer to both yes?
And if it is?
My government would be displeased if there is any bloodshed in this country.
I assure you the matter can be accomplished without bloodshed.
That isn't true, and you know it. The king would have to be killed.
Oh, but that's only one person. You said bloodshed.
Murder is murder.
Well, it wouldn't have to be murder. He could have an accident. We have people who can arrange these things very cleverly.
My government will not ever approve of murder.
Your government will never know it will be murder.
I shall so inform them.
My dear Mr. Cahill, this is an informal, unofficial, off-the-record discussion. How can you hope to prove it?
I have certain good friends in the administration.
Of course you do.
They'll believe me.
Of course they will. Privately. Publicly, it will make less trouble to just put a good face on things. You Americans have such a marvelous term for it. Don't disturb the ship.
You mean don't rock the boat?
Precisely.
Henry, wake up. Wake up.
What?
Henry, you're having a nightmare.
Oh, yeah. I guess I was.
Oh, dear. What was it about?
I dreamed that the evil spirit came for supper tonight, and that the good spirit didn't.
Oh, why, of all the superstitious nonsense.
Look, by the window, the bowls. The one with the vinegar is empty. That means something bad's going to happen very soon.
Oh, Henry, what's gotten into you?
The Queen and Rossborough are plotting to kill the king. She's in love with him. He's using her. How can I stop it? I'm absolutely powerless. Well, at least I can warn him. Your Majesty?
We are alone, Hank. Zuli.
Zuli. Zuli, your life is in danger.
Yes, I know.
You know?
The life of a king is always in danger.
I don't mean generally. I mean there's a plot.
There is always a plot.
Zuli, your wife and Count Rossborough are plotting to kill you.
Mr. Ambassador, how dare you? You come from a barbarian country where there is no respect for rank. This interview is terminated. You are dismissed from our presence.
What was I going to do? The man was obviously a fool. But it was vital that he remain a king. How can I save him now? Then I got an idea. Mr. Daly.
Yes, sir.
Send a cable to the office of the Kansas City Daily Messenger. Say, I want whatever pictures, photographs, drawings, illustrations, everything they have on a woman named Molly Bonnet.
Yes, Mr. Ambassador.
Kind of you to receive me, Your Majesty. Tell me, how's your love affair with Count Rossborough coming along?
Sir, how dare you?
Do you want to answer the question? You know I'm not making this call with a pair of deuces. Now, let's you and I just have an intelligent discussion between two grown-up people. You are in love with Count Rossborough.
Certainly. Consider the alternative. My husband's the king.
He's a stiff, I admit that, but how do you know Rossborough isn't using you? He gets you to murder the king. He can't do it himself. He can't even be remotely suspected. And then when it's done, he doesn't need you anymore.
How did you know I wanted to kill my husband?
Because you look just like her.
Who?
See all these pictures?
What? Why, those are pictures of me.
Mm-hmm.
But where were they taken? Oh, I have never worn a dress like that.
They are pictures of a Mrs. Molly Bonet of Kansas City, Missouri, who murdered her husband. You want to read the story?
Why do you show me this?
Well, if anything should happen to the king, I intend to go to places like Davray's Tavern. I'll let the people look at these pictures and tell them the story. And do you know what everyone will believe in this superstitious country?
Please.
They will believe this woman was you. Your evil spirit had crossed the Atlantic. They will know you as the murderess of your husband.
Oh, that's nonsense.
That's for you to decide.
May I have all those pictures and newspapers?
Certainly, Your Majesty. May I ask how the murder was to be accomplished?
Oh, there would be an accident. He would have been cleaning his gun.
I'm sure it isn't going to happen.
Not to the king, at any rate.
I'm afraid I have two pieces of bad news, sir. First, Count Rossborough is dead.
Is he?
Yes. It was an accident. He was cleaning his gun.
Rossborough was killed while cleaning his gun. Oh, my.
But the second, sir, you're being recalled. This cable arrived from Washington. King Zulan says you insulted him, his wife, and his best friend. And he insists that Washington send a new ambassador.
Henry, I just heard the news. We're being sent home. Is it true?
Yes, dear.
Why?
The king doesn't like me.
Well, what did you do?
I guess I insulted him.
Oh, yes, that is your style. You couldn't be helpful. You couldn't be friendly.
But, Livy, I tried to be helpful. I really and truly did.
Yes, I can imagine. You must have spoken to him like he was one of your Thursday night whiskey-drinking, poker-playing cronies. Henry, why did you have to rock the boat?
Sometimes, if you don't rock it, the boat sinks. But right or wrong, those who rock boats or stick out necks or keep insisting that the emperor is naked usually don't win popularity contests. I shall return shortly. Uneasy lies the head, as Mr. Shakespeare said, that wears the crown. For to be a king, one must live up to the ideal. One must be noble, brave, wise. And how many humans can fill the bill? So, king after king is overthrown, executed, exiled, all because he was less than perfect. Indeed, he was no better than those who adored him. It's a risky thing, this king business. Who would want such a job anyhow? But fortunately, there's no shortage of applicants. Therefore, we shall have no shortage of stories. Our cast included Fred Gwynn, Joan Shea, Ray Owens, and Ian Martin. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. This is E.G. Marshall, inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.